pastry. It's a low-carb Pop-Tart. It's got 3 to 4 grams of net carbs, and we love this show. This is our best place to be in LA.
Welcome back to Legendary Foods Muscle in the Morning. I'm Dave Palumbo, and today is Monday, October 17th, 2022. And let's find out what's going on in the world of bodybuilding and fitness. If you're going to celebrate International Chest Day, you might as well do it right by starting your morning off with a little bit of motivation courtesy of Iain Valliere. According to the latest report from Iain's camp, right now his weight is hovering somewhere in the neighborhood of 275 pounds, just under 2 weeks out from his next trip to Las Vegas. And as you can see in these photos, he's already starting to have some of his trademark graininess bubble its way to the surface. When he announced that he was going back into hibernation after he won the Vancouver Pro a few weeks ago, I know it disappointed a lot of people, but at least now you can see why he did it. Playing the size games seems to be one of the prevailing themes this year in the Men's Open, especially given their big ramp he sets at the top of the mountain. And it seems like Iain fully intends to participate, so he can build on that foundation and he will be even better by December. He's probably someone who deserves some serious consideration for a top 5 spot in this year's show. Now, let's just play this thing out for a minute and assume that Iain does bump up a spot or two and we see a few cards get reshuffled in the deck. What do you think the chances are that everyone comes up aces for a wild card like Charles Griffin? Griffin's situation is different than Iain's in the sense that he isn't coming back this year trying to improve on a top 7 finish, but he's making his first trip back to the Olympia stage since 18. And who he is now compared to who he was then is like night and day. For all intents and purposes, 2022 Charles is a completely different animal, who we've already seen stand in there and trade shots with guys that we've seen have success at the highest levels. And if he gets his timing right, Charles is someone who could absolutely find himself vying for a spot in the top 7 before this is all said and done. In addition to Iain and Charles, one of the big names we're expecting to see in the mix for the top 6 finish this year is Akeem Williams. But in the case of Akeem, we've already seen him do it before because he actually finished 6th at the Olympia in 20. But if you go back and look at those pictures and compare them to what he brought to the table when he won the IFBB Tampa Pro back in early August, it becomes, well, pretty clear quickly that we're not dealing with the same guy, because he's better all the way across the board now. For one reason or another, Akeem doesn't seem to get the same level of attention as other guys heading into the major shows on the schedule, which is crazy because his track record is as good as anyone else's. So even if Iain and Charles show up at their all-time best, it might not matter because a revamped and reloaded version of the BK Beast might be too much for both of them to handle. Listen, there's a very fine line between irrational confidence and delusion. And to be a professional athlete in any sport, you probably need to have a little bit of both. But you also need to be careful that you skew more towards the former and not the latter. And I bet you that if we threw up a poll on Instagram after the show today to ask you guys if you thought blessing Awodibu predicting that he would finish in the top 3 at the Mr. Olympia contest was irrationally confident or delusional, that the results would probably be somewhere close to, well, 50-50. But to his credit, Blessing also did the same thing heading into the start of the season, and then he went out and delivered. So it's not that he has a 0 track record on making good on his word. Now, does this mean that placing in the top 3 at this year's Olympia is a realistic possibility? No, well, probably not. But most of the other people in the Men's Open lineup won't either, which is something that we already knew. And when it comes down to it, if you're going to pour all of this time and energy and money into something like this, the Mr. Olympia contest, you might as well believe that you can do it, because otherwise it just becomes an exercise in futility. And that does it for yet another edition of Muscle in the Morning. I'm Dave Palumbo, reminding you to always be true to your passions, and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.